Today we'll be discussing the African Free School, a revolutionary experiment in Black education. In 1787, a quiet but radical revolution began in a modest home on Cliff Street in New York City. With just 47 Black students, the African Free School launched an ambitious and unprecedented experiment to provide a rigorous moral and civic education to African American children in a society that largely believed them incapable of intellectual or moral development. Funded and founded by the New York Mission Society, a group of Quaker and Anglican abolitionists that included men like Alexander Hamilton, the African Free School would go on to educate more than 2,300 students by 1814, producing artists, physicians, educators, entrepreneurs, and civil rights pioneers. In its time, it was one of the most important institutions for Black education, not only in New York, but in the Western Hemisphere. The founding of the African Free School was rooted in the post-revolutionary fervor for liberty and moral reform. The New York Manumission Society, inspired by Enlightenment ideals and religious principles, saw education as the foundation of emancipation and full citizenship for free Black people. The school's initial home was quickly outgrown, and by 1809, it had become the largest school in the city, boasting 141 pupils. With increasing demand, it expanded to locations at William and Duane Street, Mulberry and Grand, 6th Avenue, and other sites throughout Manhattan. Initially supported by private philanthropy, the school began receiving public assistance in 1796, and a state law in 1813 allowed it to receive both city and county education funds, making it one of the first publicly subsidized educational efforts for African Americans in the country. The African Free School success was inseparable from the aspirations of free Black families in New York City. These families, many of them working class or poor, worked as sailors, seamstresses, cooks, barbers, and laborers. Despite economic hardship, they strongly valued education as a means of racial uplift and civic dignity. Parents closely monitored the school's curriculum and leadership. When the school's longtime headmaster, Charles Andrews, supported Black colonialism in Africa, many Black families vocally opposed this stance, viewing it as a betrayal of their claims to full belonging in America. In other words, Charles Andrews was okay with sending Blacks back to Africa. They were against this, the parents. This engagement reveals a dynamic Black civil society invested not only in academic outcomes, but also in the political meaning of education. The African Free School was a curriculum designed for excellence. The African Free School offered a curriculum that was as ambitious as it was practical. They focused on reading, writing, and arithmetic, poetry, drawing, and public speaking. Also, skills such as navigation, a skill that would prepare students for maritime employment. They taught history. They taught Black history. For example, the Haitian Revolution, that taught them about the world and about self-governance. The school also operated under the Lancastrian system, a peer teaching model where advanced students served as monitors to teach others, instilling leadership and maximizing resources. The structure of the school day was strict. Classes began at 9 a.m. and there would be other classes starting at 2 p.m. And students were required to attend church, read scripture, and they were told to avoid lying or to use profanity or to be cruel to beasts. These moral expectations were intended to counteract the dominant belief that African Americans lacked self-discipline and virtue. By educating students with high expectations in classical instruction, the school actively refuted white supremacist ideologies of Black inferiority. At the time of its founding, there was no equivalent school in the Americas or Europe devoted to the systematic education of free Black children on such a scale. While there were some missionary-run schools in the British Caribbean and Sierra Leone, few matched the African free schools' blend of urban setting, public funding, Enlightenment ideals, and Black civic engagement. It was uniquely situated at the intersection of abolitionist, public education reform, and Black self-determination. The African Free School produced some of the most accomplished African Americans of the 19th century, whose careers spanned medicine, theater, education, religion, and business. Here are a few of its most distinguished alumni. Hi, you're in class with Dr. T. James McCoon Smith was born in 1813, passed away in 1865. He was the first African American to earn a medical degree. He earned his degree at the University of Glasgow, but operated a pharmacy in Manhattan, one of the city's first Black-owned businesses. He used his platform to refute scientific racism by publishing scientific articles using statistical analysis and scientific reasoning to dispute racist arguments written in academic journals of the time. He also published abolitionist essays and supported the right to vote for African Americans in all. Thomas L. Jennings, who was born in 1791, passed away in 1856. He was the first African American awarded a U.S. patent for a dry cleaning process. He ran a successful tailoring business in Manhattan. He donated his wealth to abolitionists and educational causes, including legal support for Black civil rights. He fought to help end segregated streetcars and fought for universal suffrage in New York City. George T. Downing, who was born in 1819 and passed away in 1903, briefly attended the African Free School and became a prominent restaurateur and a caterer. In his early 20s, Downing opened his own catering business in New York City, providing food for elite private events, balls, and public functions. And in Newport, Rhode Island, he also started the Seagirt House, a luxury restaurant and hotel. He also funded campaigns for Black suffrage and school desegregation. He used his status to lobby Congress and state officials on behalf of civil rights. His most successful campaign was to desegregate Newport's, Rhode Island's public schools. Ira Eldridge, he was born in 1807 and passed away in 1867. He gained fame in Europe as the first African American to play Othello on a major stage. Ira Eldridge built wealth by managing his own theatrical tours, controlling the production, branding himself globally, and using his art to gain financial independence and political influence across Europe. Ira Eldridge challenged racist tropes by portraying complex Black characters, redefining Black dignity, and earning acclaim across Europe as a Shakespearean actor. He used art to challenge racist tropes and expand the global image of Black intellectual capacity. Charles Lewis Reason, who was born in 1818 and passed away in 1893. He was a child prodigy in math and languages. He became a respected teacher and college professor. He made history as the first African American to be appointed to a predominantly white college, New York Central College, in 1849, as a professor of mathematics, Greek, Latin, and French. He later would become a principal in the 1850s for the Institute of Colored Youth in Philadelphia, which later would become the oldest historically Black college Cheney University. He advocated for black employment and school integration and emphasized that education should lead to economic empowerment and institutional building. Alexander Crummell, who was born in 1819 and passed away in 1898, he was a pioneering black Episcopal priest, scholar, and Pan-Africanist. He was educated at Cambridge, in Cambridge, England, that is. He fought racism through faith, education, and activism. He taught in Liberia, Africa, founded St. Luke's Episcopal Church in D.C., and co-founded the American Negro Academy. Crummell championed black self-determination, linking African American and diasporic struggles through a vision of moral, spiritual, and intellectual uplift. James Barrick was born in 1750 and passed away in 1827. He was the first bishop of the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church and a key black religious leader in early New York. Born to enslaved parents, he helped found independent black worship in response to segregation. Barrick combined spiritual leadership with institutional building, creating a powerful base for black education, political activism, and community autonomy in the North. After peaking in influence, the African Free School began to face challenges. Enrollment dropped in the late 1820s, and rival private public-run schools emerged. Activists like Samuel Cornish, who was the editor of the Freedom Journal, a very popular African-American paper in the early 19th century, worked to reinvigorate the school, leading to the opening of 4 new branches by 1832. However, black students still lacked access to secondary education, as efforts by Peter Williams Jr. and David Ruggles to establish high schools between 1831 and 1837 failed. In 1834, the African free schools were absorbed by the New York State public school system, losing their distinctive identity. Though they continued as public schools, the uniquely abolitionist and civic vision of their founders faded. The African free school was more than an educational institution. It was a political act, a community project, and a civilizational argument. In an age when African Americans were denied citizenship, rights, and even basic humanity, the school trained children not only in literacy and numeracy, but in leadership, morality, and enterprise. Its graduates were doctors, actors, businessmen, and priests. They would help build Black America in the antebellum era. While there may be no monument to the African Free School today, its legacy lives in the institutions, ideas, and individuals it helped shape. It was a singular model of Black education in the Atlantic world, pioneering in its vision, remarkable in its outcome, and revolutionary in its insistence that Black children deserve not only to learn, but to lead. Thank you. Please like, please share, please subscribe, and smash that bell